Hello everyone! I have some great news today for those who enjoy the series From. First of all, filming for the third season has started, and this year, in early autumn or maybe even earlier, we will once again become captives of Fromville. The most interesting part is that, for the first time, winter is coming to the town. We know from Victor's words that any changes in the weather bring about changes, and these changes are always bad. We'll talk about what to expect from the third season at the end. For now, I want to try once again to analyze all the details that you and I might have missed before. And it seems to me that I've finally understood what caused all the troubles in the town and what's really happening. So, I suggest you grab some cookies and enjoy watching this video. This is the Gaze for You channel. My name is Eugene, and today we're doing a breakdown of the series From, Part 2. I promise it will be interesting. Let's get started. I decided to rewatch both seasons in the hope that I could find details that I hadn't noticed before. I'll start with the book that Kenny gave Christy to read. Why is this so important? If you look at the cover, you'll see a lighthouse. We have seen this lighthouse more than once, so I decided that it couldn't be a mere coincidence. On the cover, there's a barely noticeable inscription, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym. This is a novel by Edgar Allan Poe, written back in 1838. Naturally, I decided to read it, and here's what I found interesting, and most importantly, its similarities with the series From. The novel describes the adventures of a young explorer, Arthur Pym, who illegally boarded a ship with his dog. He was forced to hide in a small compartment somewhere in the ship's hold. One day, he heard screams, and he became terrified. People were screaming in terrible pain. His dog ran out of the compartment and didn't return for a long time, but eventually came back carrying a note in its teeth, on which were scrawled the words in blood, "If you want to live, don't leave your shelter." In the morning, the screams of the people stopped, and Arthur went out onto the deck. Bodies were lying everywhere. He found 3 wounded but surviving people who told him that without any apparent reason, the sailors had mutinied and started killing everyone very brutally and inhumanely. They were monsters, not men. After the ship drifted for a long time in the open ocean, Arthur was lucky. He was rescued by a ship from Liverpool heading south, but problems started again. They encountered floating ice. The ship was surrounded by ice, but somehow they managed to reach an island. There, they were met by unfriendly natives, people with black teeth. The crew tried to hide on the island from the cannibals. In the end, Arthur found a boat and was able to leave the island, thus saving himself. At this point, the narrative breaks off. In 1864, the editorial team managed to find 3 lost chapters, and here's the most interesting part. In one of them, a labyrinth located under the island was mentioned. It was a network of tunnels, a vast underground complex. Arthur hid there from the natives, but couldn't find an exit for a long time. He had a torch with him and saw strange drawings on the walls. This is very similar to what we saw in the series. Too many coincidences. There was a massacre on the ship at night, and Arthur's dog saved him by bringing a note with instructions to hide. In the series, the boy in white's dog repeatedly helps the residents. Arthur found an underground complex with strange drawings on the island. This labyrinth is also in the series. The similarities don't end there. The British scientist Alfred Russel Wallace later wrote a review in which he pointed out that the writer Edgar Allan Poe was influenced by John Sims's Hollow Earth theory. The writer Edgar Allan Poe never returned to this story, but years later he inspired other writers. In 1897, Jules Verne continued the narrative of Arthur Pym, and this book is known as The Sphinx of Ice. Later, the story was continued by Howard Lovecraft in 1931. His novel, At the Mountains of Madness, is one of the main works in the Cthulhu mythos cycle. I haven't had the chance to read all of the works, but I hope there are Lovecraft fans among you. If you notice any similarities with the series, please write about it in the comments. The theory that Cthulhu is depicted on the walls of the underground now doesn't seem as crazy as it did before. The second detail, Inuksuk, also known as Inuksut or even Inuktitut. This is a stone figure in Inuit culture, and it also appears in the series. Inuits are an ethnic group of peoples in North America who used stone figures called Inuksuk as landmarks. They came in various forms. Some were used to indicate directions, others conveyed information about danger, while some served to mark sacred places. Stones were the primary means of communication. Inuits built Inuksut across their entire territory, both near and far from settlements. They also constructed sun circles for prayers and protection against otherworldly forces. 7 boulders were placed around the circumference, and at the center of the circle, a person stood under the protection of the sun, enhancing their connection with the gods. Such a place was shown to us in the series. Do you remember where Father Kotri constantly prayed? I mentioned earlier that this place is unusual. Someone brought huge stones and arranged them in a circular form, most likely a long time ago. The Inuit are descendants of representatives of the Thule culture. They believed in the existence of Ultima Thule Island, which literally translates as the edge of the world. This island was visited by Arthur Pym in Edgar Allan Poe's novel. There he found an underground passage and hostile natives. According to Inuit beliefs, this island is the entrance to the Hollow Earth, where two dimensions intersect. European sailors have been searching for this ghost island for thousands of years. It is believed that the only person who visited it was the Greek traveler Pytheas, who lived in the 3rd century BCE. We've long suspected that the events of the series take place on an island. First, the lighthouse. They are often built in coastal areas as landmarks for ships, signaling proximity to land. And most importantly, Victor's drawings often feature an island. There's much more interesting stuff from Inuit mythology and religion. Their shamans, Angaquit, wore strange costumes with a head resembling a sheep, with long ears and a central eye called Isitok. In the first episode, Julia wore a shirt with something very similar depicted on it. Isitok is a deity that punishes those who break taboos, usually taking the form of a giant flying eye. And again, this huge flying eye is often drawn by Victor. I don't think it's a mere coincidence. Most likely, Victor has already seen this eye in the sky, and we remember that he draws to remember what happened to him. Also, the Inuit believed in a divine connection with objects. After death, all personal belongings of a person were buried, covering the grave with stones. These burial mounds could not be touched, especially taking the personal belongings of the deceased, as it could bring misfortune upon oneself. Shamans and witches could bring the soul of the deceased back to Earth and control it with an object that belonged to the dead person during their lifetime. This information led me to the music box. It was clear that only this music box summoned the ballerina. When Boyd destroyed it, all the troubles ended. That strange ceramic toy could have belonged to the monster Smiley, which is why he always delighted us with his positively tuned facial expression. By the way, I think Victor had already seen this toy before. Remember his behavior in the dungeon. Perhaps Christopher's diary is also such an item, like the bride's dress that Tabitha found in the suitcase. This is just my theory, as no one knows for sure, except the creators of the series. Personally, I still think that all the items that Victor and Tabitha found in the dungeon belong to the townspeople. Monsters take them as souvenirs. Here's an example. When Smiley killed 2 elderly people on the bus, he took a wallet with him, and he pulled out a tooth from the grandmother. Therefore, when they start examining and dissecting the body of the dead monster, you can see that there was a tooth and a wallet in his pockets. They lie next to him. It's hard to notice, but it's true, and it's very strange, although there are enough oddities in the series. Therefore, books, bicycles, and televisions could have been brought by monsters from the city. These things once belonged to the townspeople, but I don't know why they do it. Victor's reaction to the ceramic toy. Maybe it's his toy? Let's go back to the Inuit people. This nation lived in the northern territories of Canada, south of the Labrador Peninsula. In 1497, John Cabot's expedition landed on the shores of Labrador. It is believed that the first Europeans to meet the Inuit were precisely the members of John Cabot's expedition. But now, this is not so important. I am more interested in what influence the Europeans brought with them. The main religion of the Inuit was called animism, a belief in the existence of souls and spirits, a belief in the animation of all nature. In 1506, Europeans, this date is also mentioned in the lighthouse, began to retrain and preach Lutheranism to the Inuit. This is one of the oldest Protestant movements in Christianity, which emerged as a result of the Reformation movement in Germany in the 16th century, during the formation of state churches in Scandinavian countries. The patriarch of this movement is the German Christian theologian Martin Luther. In the series, there is also a character named Martin, the same old man who miraculously freed Boyd from being chained to the wall. Whether this is the same Martin, I don't know. Perhaps it's just a coincidence, nothing more. But I still wanted to convey this information to you. The third important detail is the runes of the Elder Futhark. They also appear in the series and have no relation to the Inuit people. The first rune is located in the center of a stone talisman and is called Inguz. The meaning of this rune is associated with fertility, sowing, and conception. To the right and left of it are the Scandinavian symbols of the daily cycle and the rotation of the sun and the moon. Therefore, I believe that the protective talismans were created by the Vikings. They were the first to reach the shores of America and possibly the first victims of Fromville. The second rune is called Ansuz and is mainly found only in Victor's drawings. It represents the word God and is associated with Odin. The third rune is on Tabitha's pendant and is called Odal, which means inheritance or ancestral property. The most interesting thing is that Tabitha's pendant is two-sided. On the reverse side, there is a symbol of 3 roses. The pendant is called Anna Louise, with the rune Odal on one side and the symbol of 3 roses on the other. It's a sentimental thing, symbolizing the integrity of the family. Father, mother, and child. Boyd leaves hints on trees so as not to get lost. It could be an arrow or the rune Taiwaz, which means path. As I mentioned before, trees are depicted around the circumference of the talisman. This is how the Vikings depicted them on their maps. So far, I haven't noticed any more Scandinavian runes, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. I just can't pay attention to everything. However, a couple more things caught my eye, and they are related to ravens. In the series, these birds are everywhere. They are encountered on the road, often seen in Victor's drawings, on t-shirts, everywhere. The raven is an integral part of Norse mythology, a revered bird whose images adorned Viking ship banners. The raven is the companion of the supreme god Odin. According to legend, during the day, the birds gather information from all over the world, and in the evening, they perch on their owner's shoulders and whisper into his ear everything they have seen and heard. Therefore, I believe that the crows serve someone and obey. But what is most interesting is their appearance on Father Hatri's scarf. This scarf is quite strange. On it, once again, there is a depiction of the day and night opposition. But the most important thing is the protective drawing, which we've seen before on those same stone talismans. Where it came from Father Hatri, is unknown. At first, I thought it was a very old thing, but that's not the case. Look at Alice's jeans. They're modern jeans. And on them, we also see, firstly, crows, a tree, and the same drawings that are depicted on the talisman. You can compare for yourself who drew them, whose jeans they are. Did Alice come in them, or did they belong to someone from Fromville? We know that all the clothes in the house are shared. Everyone shares what they have, but this drawing goes beyond my understanding. 2 crows on top and 1 below, and it's upside down, which again reminds us of the existence of 2 dimensions. Like on the talisman, 2 figures in different worlds. I still can't understand one more thing. Kayleigh's death, and most importantly, the sneakers. Do you know who else wore exactly the same sneakers? Victor, in his childhood. How did they end up with Kayleigh? The high sneakers were first created by Hummel International. Later, this sneaker design was bought by Big Star. But the point is not that. It's about the fact that the German company Hummel was named after the artist Berta Hummel, a German nun who drew strange pictures. One of the paintings is in the series. It's the cover of a children's poetry book. I couldn't find the book translated, and there's probably nothing interesting in it. But still, sometimes you just want to say, what's going on here? Why did Kayleigh wear Victor's sneakers? Why didn't the monsters tear her apart? Do we have any reason to think that someone from the people of Fromville didn't kill her? The idea that Donna might be a decoy duck doesn't leave my mind from the very beginning. It's a very controversial character. Someone from the people of Fromville killed Kayleigh, not the monsters. I have 2 theories. The first one is still connected to the idea of the Thule Island. Everyone accidentally ended up in a place where there is an entrance to the hollow earth, into the world of spirits. All thoughts and fears of people materialize there. Someone fears cicadas, someone fears spiders. Throughout time, these fears have accumulated and been stored on the island. But where the railway and the pillars came from is unclear to me, so this idea seems mediocre. The other theory is based on experimental treatment. If there exists a hospital where non-standard approaches to treating mental disorders are practiced, and everyone who wishes is artificially induced into a coma, and they connect to the subconscious of another person, whose imagination and subconsciousness created the city. It could have been Victor. Everyone is in his long dream. Victor created the monsters, and his drawings materialize. And Tabitha actually managed to wake up in the real world. But these are just my thoughts, and I doubt I guessed anywhere. Now I want to discuss the 3rd season. Filming has successfully begun, and initially there were rumors that there might not be a 3rd season due to lack of funding. But Netflix stepped in and bought the rights to broadcast in Europe, and the series entered the top 10 most viewed. Therefore, Netflix allocated part of the money for production, and I'm incredibly happy about this news. Snow was noticed on the roofs of houses during filming, and it becomes clear that after the death of the ballerina, events in Fromville will take on a new level. I'm confident that the creators of the series will start providing answers, and actions from the outside will now be shown from both sides. Tabitha will find Victor's sister, Eloise, and she will tell us the whole truth about how Christopher deceived everyone. Christopher, according to insider assurances, is also alive, and he was the mayor of the town who lured people to Fromville. But later, he turned out to be not such a good person. I think the new threat is Christopher, but how it will actually turn out, I hope the creators of the series know from the inside. What do you think? Write in the comments.